Welcome to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We are on KCAA 1050 AM all over Southern California. And if you miss us on the live broadcast, don't forget you can catch us on KCAAradio.com in the archives. Better yet, you can catch us streaming and actually see who's there, although I do look better on the radio. Catch us streaming. We are on the Building Solid Foundations channel, which is a free channel on Roku, Amazon Fire, and the Android app. If you are on Apple, sorry, they just don't play nice with other children. That'll be a while before we get on there. We are also on your favorite podcast platform, so check us out there. Today, I'm going to talk to two young ladies that are doing very well in real estate investing, but that's not the business that they're actually in. And we're going to talk about how to get started in doing that while you still have that W-2 job and you come from an entirely different discipline. The two ladies I'm talking today are both engineers working under the Department of Defense. First is Tamara Bell. She is her LLC manager as well as an engineer. Welcome, Tamara. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And you've been investing in real estate for about the past 5 years in multiple areas of real estate, including out-of-state rentals, land development, and notes. She's in 3 land development projects with my company, Coast to Coast Equity. So just full disclosure, I know them personally. They're part of our partnership team. And she's now more active day-to-day LLC management with land development projects. She's educated herself. We're going to get into this a little deeper. There's some more information on what she's done to educate herself, but we're going to cover that as we go through the conversation. Kara Tan. Kara Tan is also an engineer working with the DoD, but she is also a real estate investor. She started with house hacking her own house just to figure out a way to make things work, and lived in the place and rented out all the bedrooms. And from there, she has branched out into land development, buy and holds, and other real estate projects. I've known both these young ladies for, I want to say, about 4 years or so, I'm guessing.
4 to 5.
Yeah, pre-pandemic, yes. Met them at a Real Estate Investor Association club at a meeting, and we've been working ever since together. And we're going to walk through kind of how that process looks. But you never know where you might end up or who you might be working with when you go out and just meet people. Welcome, Kara and Tamara.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, so let's get into a little bit of where we came from. Obviously, engineering has very little to do with the real estate development world. And what I find fascinating, 20 years ago, when I was doing these projects, my partners and I had a saying, never talk to the smart people, they won't invest. And that meant doctors, lawyers, engineers, those kind of people. They were too intelligent because they're always risk averse. Everything risk averse. But there's a different generation. You guys are in a younger generation, and I find that a lot of the people in technology, biosciences, engineering are very happy to get into real estate investing. They make good money, and they want to get into real estate. And there's a generational switch in there somewhere over the last 15 to 20 years. So you guys are in that generation that is looking for other things besides just what you do as a job. So let's talk about how you got there. So we'll start with you, Tamara. You mentioned that you started a course in land development with Vest Right, and you did a year-long journey leadership with a leadership development team. Is that where you started, or was that a second or third step after you got going?
That was a couple of steps along the way. So
Okay.
One of the reasons why I think how you mentioned about our generation really wanting to get into real estate investment is we kind of grew up with the knowledge that Social Security, we're not getting that retirement was going to be a really difficult thing. And so even though I had, a pretty good job in engineering, I was worried not only with, the FIRE movement of retiring early, just retiring would be great. So
Yes.
I was looking for another way to kind of build up a portfolio, build wealth, because there's just a limit at what you can do in the professional W-2 world.
Okay.
So I attended a lot of meetups, actually. Actually, my introduction to Kara we work at the same place. She's the one that introduced it to me in the first place. Before that, I was looking into, coming up with inventions for random stuff,
Okay.
and realized that the kind of effort you have to put into that.
But that's a very engineering solution.
It is an engineering solution to maybe not an engineering problem per se. So after kind of exploring that for a while and realizing that it's not going to get me the kind of returns that real estate would, and actually real estate became very creative as well, something that I felt was kind of lacking in my job too. So after I was introduced to Kara, she told me about what she'd been doing, and so she invited me to one of the meetups, and that's where I also met you and learned about all the different opportunities that we have in the field.
Good. Okay, Kara, so you predated Tamara into this field, and I know a little bit about your background. When I first met you, you were house hacking. which is very creative for someone that didn't have a real estate background. So kind of tell us your journey.
So for me, I fell into real estate by accident, actually. And a little bit along what Tamara was saying, too. For our generation, we're not as fortunate when we look down the line in our financial future in terms of retirement, getting our primary home, having job security as the previous generations before us. So for me, it was always, okay, how do I save more money? How do I lower my bills? And when I was a college student in my early 20s, I was the one that was always trying to fill out the extra bedrooms if somebody left for the summer semester, or if we had someone that graduated early and during winter and we had an open slot for spring. And after a while, I thought, well, if I'm filling in rooms for a landlord with my current housing, I could buy a house and do that for myself. I already kind of started building up that skill set while I was in college. And so the first few years out of school, I worked hard to save up in my job and bought my first home. And I started renting out rooms just to help me pay for part of my bills. And actually having 3 out of 4 of my bedrooms rented out, I was covering 90% of my monthly expenses. And I thought, this is great. I get to lower my bills. I get to save more money. And the goal was never to build my rental portfolio. It was just to save on my bills. After my first year, I did my taxes with my CPA, and I thought, wait a minute, I made more money, but my taxes were less. How does that add up? So I had a meeting with her. I sat down with her, go through my finances, and I realized, wow, there's a lot more to real estate than just some rental income. There's a lot more on the tax side from it as well. So I started researching more about real estate. I started going out to more meetups, real estate clubs, listening to podcasts, whatever I could find and get my hands on to learn more information. I did that. And then there was a whole world to real estate where you could do fix and flip, wholesaling, notes, multifamily, land development when I met you, Steve. And I ended up finding that real estate was such a good creative outlet for me where I could not use those skills to think outside the box at my job. So that's how I started with real estate, and I continue to work in real estate.
And it's interesting when we look at the people that make the tax laws, they are invested in real estate. They
Yes.
are invested in corporations. They are invested in a lot of different vehicles. They do not work W-2 jobs.
Yes.
And yet all the taxes go to W-2 jobs. And what I find ironic is everybody who works a W-2 job supports higher taxes for everybody. And they're the ones that pay it.
Yes.
Yeah. So you start making income off of other things and you realize, wait a minute, this deck was stacked a little different here, right?
Yes.
And you need to be on that side of the fence. Now, it's
Yes.
okay to keep the W-2 for other things like qualifying for loans, you get benefits and those type of things. I joke with people, I stood outside the college where I work with a sign that said, we'll work for benefits. Right. So I get to see the dentist because the school, although they don't pay me that much. Great place to work, but that's just education, right? My company is what I live on. Now, Carrie, you were able, through doing the house hacking, to buy a very large, nice house in one of the most expensive housing markets in the country by being able to rent those rooms out.
Yes.
And that enabled you to have, a net of around $500 a month total mortgage or something like that?
Yeah, a PITI. So that was my only expense. It was actually closer to 400 actually.
400, that's great.
Yeah, but I had a 4-bedroom, 2-bath in a really good school neighborhood, single family home. And since I bought that home, the value has almost doubled in appreciation.
Yeah, and so that's what real estate does for you. Okay, so when I met both Kara and Tamara, I met them at previously on the show. If you go check the archives, you'll see there's an interview I did with Janice Bell, who runs Private Lending Masters. And I met both these young ladies at one of those events. And when I got to the event, we were on the Wednesday after Thanksgiving, and not many people showed up, but the diehards do. And I remember Janice even saying, look, I didn't get any people. Do you want to reschedule? Speaking of the time, I said, no, whoever's here is who I talked to. And so there was literally 4 or 5 people that were not part of the organization that I spoke with. And all 3 out of the 4 became investors and are part of repeatedly. And so now we've moved a little beyond just both them invested in my projects, but we're now doing a lot more than just that. So let's talk through some of the other types of real estate you're doing beyond just the house hacking and the simple, most people think, okay, I'm going to do an ADU, I'm going to do a fix and flip, I'm going to do this kind of stuff. Let's talk about some of the kind of things you're involved in. What kind of projects are we doing?
Other projects that that I'm involved in. Yeah, I also have a buy and hold rental property that I have in out of state.
Okay.
And I kind of went into that with the idea of, again, like you said, we're engineers, we're risk averse. And so when I was entering the field of, real estate, I really wanted to test drive different things. Am I capable of being a landlord, the energy that goes into that and what that entails? So I thought I would sort of test drive it by having a property manager for an out-of-state rental. And I was able to learn a lot through them so that if I wanted to make the decision, the leap to go to, maybe buy a duplex in San Diego and then rent out one side and live in the other, that would be something that I could maybe have more comfort with later. So that was one of the things that I worked with. But the other thing, like you said, was investing in some of your land development syndications, which really appealed to me because I found that, number one, as a first step into real estate, it's passive. And so it felt really comfortable, again, that I can do my due diligence, but look at the project and then put my money in a place that I felt like was going to give me a good return. And these kinds of projects I found really fascinating too, because you don't hear about them a lot. You hear about the fancy, house flipping, but this idea of land development or land flipping was really appealing because you're essentially, making large tracts of raw land turn into something with a different use and getting approved plans with that. So I found it was a great place to put self-directed IRA funds in, as well as personal funds. So giving myself those different diversified options with real estate was really appealing.
Fantastic. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to hear from Kara all the stuff she's involved in now. This is Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley, and we're talking to Kara Tan and Tamara Bell about shifting from the engineering world into the real estate development world. We'll be right back after this short message.
Tired of qualifying your leads and not getting the right clients for you? Join the finest women in real estate and learn how to attract the best clients and increase your referral network. Call now at 951-378-5316. 951-378-5316 and become one of the finest women in real estate.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations radio talk show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental properties, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about. So join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Hey guys, it's Damon, Mr. Foxy, Damon Hart, and I'm here with the real men of real estate. And I just want to say, hey, come and watch us this Sunday, 1 p.m. live, every Sunday. Okay, we're going to be on KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. If you got a minute, just tune in. We can't wait to have you here. I'm going to be there. If you can't make it on there, we're going to be at Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, or Android app on Building Solid Foundations channel. So tune in. You know what you got to do in the meantime. Keep it foxy.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We are talking today with two engineers work for the government, but they are involved in the real estate world. And we're talking about their journey and what they've done. And when we left off, we kind of talked about their backgrounds, how they got into it. And Kara, when we left off, we were going to talk to you about what kind of projects you're currently invested in.
Okay. So for me, when I actually first started with real estate, I think for a lot of people, the easiest concept to understand is, okay, I'm going to be a landlord. You buy a house, you rent out the house, you make income from it. And then eventually, some people start branching out to other things like fix and flip or wholesaling or notes and this whole other environment with real estate. However, I do have a full-time W-2 job. So I had to be cognizant of, okay, I'm going to be spending at least 8 hours a day doing something else. So my involvement with real estate had to be something that was semi-part-time. I couldn't go and now say, hey, I'm just going to buy this big project and do a fix and flip because I can't commit full-time to it. And actually, through going through with what I wanted to do in real estate, I did find that I do really enjoy long-term rentals. So that was kind of my niche that I wanted to focus on. But when I first started as well, syndications were also very attractive to me. As Tamara was saying, it was a very passive form of investing. And then also I saw it as an opportunity to get my foot in the door. And as somebody who graduated during the aftermath of the Great Recession, that's what you learn, how to get your foot in the door. And for me, if I didn't have the skill set or the experience to run a multifamily project, what I would do is, hey, I could be the financial partner to a multifamily syndication. And because I'm the investor in that, I am allowed to ask questions about the project. How did you find this deal? Why did you think this deal was working? What is the exit strategy? And this is kind of how I learned through semi-passively through how are the more experienced investors doing this. And, I did some multifamily syndications. I did your land development thing. And I kind of ended up landing more towards the land development. No pun intended. Just because it was such an interesting segment to me because not a lot of people you meet do land. And it's this whole other part that I realize if I try to Google for a book or a podcast or anything, not a lot of people know how to do it. So the only way I was able to learn was through actually bugging you as one of your investors.
That's right.
And as you know, Steve, we've asked a lot of questions. And but I really love the space that you're in because of how creative the deals can be structured. There's a lot less competition, so it doesn't always feel like a majority of fight is fending off other people. You actually get to go in and do real estate as it is. And that's the beauty of it that really drew and attracted me. And there's a lot more forms of exit strategy than, say, with a rental, you can rent it or sell it.
That's right.
With land, it could be, you could do commercial, you could do farm.
It's an empty canvas.
It's an empty canvas. And that is what I love about it. It's the very creative side.
Right. There's some restrictions. There's zoning issues and those kind of things. And, we do market studies. But, yeah, you can make shifts pretty quick because it's just paper.
Yes.
And it'll cost you a little time and cost you a little money if you change plans halfway through. But that's better than being committed to something that no longer works. So interesting you mentioned that the competition side of it. So people I've talked about what I do before, and people said, you need like a reality show on what you do. I'm like, no, never. Don't ever let that happen because it'll ruin it. As soon as it ends up on HGTV, it's amateur hour. Everybody comes out of the woodworks and destroys the whole thing, right? So I used to do the fix and flips. I used to buy homes. I'd live in them while I fixed them. And then I'd sell them, move on to the next thing. And I did very well at that. And then all of a sudden that became super trendy. And I don't want to do any part of it now because you're competing against a lot of people that are driving prices up. You can't get good deals. Oversaturated. It gets a little bit of a bad reputation because people kind of do hack jobs on their remodels because they start running out of money. They didn't plan well. And so I like being in a niche of real estate that is fairly unknown. Now the challenge is when we go to talk to people about investing, we have a lot of discussion to do because it is so unknown.
Oh, yes. There's a large educational component to it. But, we have met people that get very fascinated. What is that? I've never heard of that before. And, actually part of what I do too is because I love doing real estate so much, and I also really love finance and personal finance. It's a little bit of financial nerd here. I love talking to people about this. So I never mind the educational aspect of it because for me, I want to see other people succeed as well.
I agree. That's why when you guys ask questions, I'm never irritated by that. And the reason is I like teaching about it because somebody taught me about it.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't go. That wasn't offered as a course in school.
It
right?
still isn't.
It still isn't. Yeah, nobody talks about it. Now there are, in fact, there are real estate degrees out there, real estate development degrees, but they focus on more urban stuff and buy a
Yeah.
building and fix it up and value add things. They don't really talk about dealing with the raw land side.
Yeah.
It's still an unusual thing that a lot of people don't know about. So it's one of those things. If you find something really great and it's treated you well, you kind of want to share it with some other people, especially if those are people that are helping you in the process, right? And so our philosophy has always been, if you got something to bring to the party, you're always welcome at the party. And I like people that are serious about it. There's the people that are the parasites that come and they just want to pull all your information out and then run off and do their own thing.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because I know that they'll probably end up bankrupt in 2 years because they don't know what they're doing yet, right?
Right.
But I appreciate people like you who are curious, they want to learn it, but they also want to participate and be a part of it. And I have all the time in the world for people like that. So now you guys have a company called Mosaic that you formed. Is that correct?
Yes. Mosaic Land Partners.
Mosaic Land Partners. Okay. So curious, why the name?
I think because land is, when you look at it from like an airplane, it looks like a mosaic of different.
It does.
It's different parcels,
different
yeah.
parcels, and one of the things that is part of land, entitlement is finding out different uses for the land, and it kind of gives you this idea that there are multiple uses. You buy by the parcel, you sell by the lot. So like many things making up a whole.
Yeah, and we actually have a little bit of personal ties to Mosaic as well. I did a little bit of a Mosaic class and actually found I've never thought myself as artistic, but that's one of the artistic things that I really enjoy. I really enjoyed putting little mosaics together. Of course, I'm very much a beginner, but and Tamara's mom actually does mosaics.
She teaches a mosaic class, so I'm always around tile and grout and all sorts of messy things. But again, even just like having this idea of like these multiple pieces coming together to make a whole. And one of the things that you've always stressed to me, how important it is in this business in particular, is the team and having multiple people that come together that make a greater whole. And so I think that was kind of part of the thing that also cemented the name for us.
Yeah, that was ultimately.
Although it's kind of hard to spell, so I feel bad a little
No,
about that.
but what I like about it, so I'm not an artist at all, but when I was really little, like 4 years old, one of the first art projects I ever did was a mosaic. It was a trivet.
Oh, cool.
About, I would say, maybe about 4 inches by about 6 inches with little tiles. And basically there's just this pile of junk on the table, right? Each one's just by itself is just a little piece. Some are broken, right? And then I learned that you could make a flower or, those simple things out of it, right? Make little things out of it. And I think that's what I love about doing land development. A lot of times the individual parcel by itself doesn't have a lot of value.
Yeah,
But when you look at
exactly.
the big picture that's coming out of it, and if you can see the big picture, that little piece has a high value, because if it's missing, the picture's incomplete. It's that, 1,000-piece puzzle. When you're missing the one piece, it drives you bananas. The picture's never going to be correct because we got a hole in it, right? And it creates the value. I actually did a training session for a group of realtors in Arizona. Now, these are realtors supposed to know a lot about real estate, but none of them understood what happened before the homes got there, because they don't teach those things, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a knock on them. Nobody knows those things. They're taught existing homes, list them, sell them, that kind of stuff, and the laws and all the documents. And they were fascinated. And I showed them an aerial map of a town in Arizona we're working in that showed this is what the town looks like. If you drive through, this is what you're going to see. Then I showed them the next map of all the pending projects going on. And it looks, in fact, like a mosaic, because I have different colors on all the different parcels. And this is this builder and this company and that. They just kind of put, and here's our projects. And you realize the town is going to be 3 times larger in probably 10 years. As they're growing and developing, but you can't see it. So you drive by every day, you don't know anything's going on, and then you don't see it until they start moving dirt around, when they start putting sticks in the air and those kind of things. And I think so. I think mosaic is a great analogy for that.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. That was our intention.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you have that company, and you basically help others to invest in projects that they normally would not have access to.
Yes. So that was something that, when I first met you, Steve, I was very appreciative of that, because as a new, young professional, you don't start off with the 6-figure paycheck your first 2 years out of school. I mean, maybe some software people do now, but typically back then, right after the Great Recession, that was very, very uncommon. So, a lot of syndication projects at that point were accredited status only, or I just felt that we were so locked out of a lot of these projects. As an engineer, I had money to invest, but because I did not have a net worth of, say, over $1 million, I was not allowed to invest in these projects. So it was a little bit of like almost a chicken of an egg thing, like I needed a lot of money to invest, but to make more money, but I don't have the money to start.
Yeah. I need to be independently wealthy to be an investor, but in order to get independently wealthy, I have to invest in something.
Yes.
But nobody will let me invest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So when I spoke to you, you were saying, hey, we're actually open to sophisticated investors, not just accredited. And your minimums were actually a lot lower than some of the other ones I was seeing for multifamily. At that time, they were starting at $50,000. And then nowadays, I think the common minimum is 100,000, sometimes even 250. I've seen up to that high. So from someone that came from humble beginnings with blue collar parents, this was something that I saw my parents' entire lifetimes that they did not have access to. And I thought, this is really great that you offer this opportunity for that subset of, people that traditionally, these are the people that need these opportunities, but they're usually locked out of these. So for our project, that was one of the aspects that I really wanted to do. I really wanted to have our project be a 506B project, allow accessibility for those that traditionally cannot do this, but these are the subset of the population that needs these type of investments the most.
That's great. And so we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to have Tamara chime in on that. This is Building Solid Foundations on KCAA. I'm Steve Matley. We'll be right back after this break.
Looking to attract your target market without soliciting or doing the cold calling? Call Marie Waite and book your consultation. Branding gives you the power to create a unique and classy perception of your business for your target audience. A marketing plan without the right branding will always cost more, take longer, and tend to deliver subpar results compared to a well-branded business. Marie Waite is a branding strategist who formulates effective marketing and media programs to promote your business in building your name, brand, and legacy. Marie has over 10 years of experience and a proven record of creating strong brand content for business owners, entrepreneurs, and companies using her creative ideas, recommendations, and innovative programs. Book now at mariewaite.com or call her at 951-378-5316. 951-378-5316.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations radio talk show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental property, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about. So join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Hello, everyone. I am Lynette LaRoche here at Fabulous Lifestyles Foundations Radio Show. So excited to have you here with us. We have so much to offer you, and we have amazing guests that we bring on every Sunday. So we want to make sure that you tune in on KCAA Broadcasting Network, because remember, this is all about having a fabulous lifestyle, and it can be yours to be had. So tune in every Sunday to Fabulous Lifestyle Foundation Radio. And we also have other radio shows that would be of interest to you as well in fashion, fun, and finance. I am Lynette LaRoche, and remember, you need to build a house before you can bring in the furniture.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. This is Steve Matley. We're talking today with Tamara Bell and Kara Tan, and they are both currently engineers working with the government, but they also are real estate investors, and they have worked in multiple types of investing. And before the break, we were talking about how they got involved in land type investments. And one quick note: there was some terminology that was thrown out there. If you're not familiar with it, one is the term 506B. So what that refers to is when you do what's known as a syndication, is where you form a company, an LLC, and then you sell parts of that company to other people, to investors. And they can come in and become your partners, equity partners in the business, part owners with you, generally silent partners. So there's a rule under Regulation D, 506, that has 4 different rules that outline 4 different structures that you can follow. 506B is a structure that lets you take some investors, up to 35, that are so-called non-accredited. So non-accredited means under the IRS definition, you need to have $1 million of net worth, not including your primary residence, and or have, I think, $250,000 income. Is it $200,000 income, or $300,000 if you're a married couple? And the reason is the IRS wants to make sure that people that can't afford to lose money don't get into projects where they lose money and it changes their lifestyle. An accredited investor generally would have enough money that if they lost money in a deal, it doesn't mean they're homeless. So they don't care. If you're rich, they don't care about you. If you don't have money, they want to make sure you're not getting taken advantage of. That's how that rule works. Under 506B, you can approach people that are not accredited. And as Kara was explaining, while that rule is there to protect people, it also hinders people who have enough money to invest but don't qualify and they can't get started. And that's an important distinction. We've always chosen to go that route. For the other reason also, we don't publicly advertise our projects. We do educate people. But the other side of that is I know every one of my investors. I don't have any unknown strangers investing in my project. I've talked to every one of them, and I like that. They are truly a family, and we treat them like family. So I want to know them, and I want to make sure that they're a right fit. I have turned investors down in the past because I just felt they were not a good fit based upon their risk tolerance levels and their availability of assets. So that's what we were referring to. I just wanted to give you a little bit of that background. Obviously, you want to talk to a real expert, not just me, if you want to get real explanation on that, attorneys and accountants and those kind of people. So Tamara, picking up on when Kara left off, she was explaining why you decided to structure your business that way. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, one of the reasons too, it was really important for us to, get into this field too and educate people, is that we kind of fell into real estate ourselves. She started off house hacking. I started off bumbling around with inventions, trying anything to kind of get a side hustle going around. And there really isn't education that's out there unless you seek it out and know where to be looking. So I would see my fellow engineers, this is their first big job out of college, buying a flashy car with their first paycheck. And I was just like, no, because it'll feel good for a second and then you'll be stuck with that debt for a while. And
the new car smell goes away in about 6 months and the payments keep going.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So I wanted to kind of give that education to people who I saw around me just making these sort of decisions that I was like, you're going to regret this a little bit. So to give them other options. And as you've said before, engineers tend to be extremely risk averse, but I feel like buying a car, a nice shiny car, is a pretty risky move, as your first paycheck. So
yep.
That was one of the things that also made me really want to go into this field and give other people that education that we eventually found thanks to you, but also just to have it more readily available.
And a lot of it's the instant gratification thing. So you're coming out of college. Engineering's not the easiest degree to get. I wasn't smart enough to get in engineering school, so that's fine. But I did business. But you go through a program that's very difficult, it's expensive, and when you finish it and you get that good paying job, you want to reward yourself. Maybe that was your motivation, so it's understandable. It's also instant gratification, whereas that's fine, but if you look at the big picture, if you can put that off a little longer and you can put money into investments that grow, eventually, without having car payments, you can buy a better car than that for cash if you wanted to.
Absolutely. I don't know. I get to a certain point too where I kind of it's a point of pride that I own a clunker, just because it means that I can spend my money on something like, my future or just building wealth in general, and then my car becomes something that just gets me from day to day, place to place.
I still drive my 20-plus-year-old pickup truck that's a little bit beat up because it won't stop running. I did buy it brand new for cash because in the business we can do that. What I did, I had a project with my partner where we tied up a dairy in Riverside County, and we only had it in escrow for about 60 days. What happened was the developer we were selling another property to wanted it, and we said, instead of us doing all the work and selling it to you, why don't you just buy the contract from us? Because we had it was a signable contract. So they paid us to buy the contract from them, and with that check, I used that to, with cash, go buy a vehicle with it to replace the car I had, because I gave that to my daughter. And so then I bought the truck brand new, but that was 22 years ago. I'm still driving the same thing because, like you said, when I see enough money to buy a new vehicle, as much as I would like that, I would rather put that into an investment, and that will double, triple, quadruple over time. And then my car still runs, and I'm not interested in impressing anybody. Mm-hmm. So I'm far too old to drive a flashy car to impress women. That doesn't work. I wouldn't anyways. So, so why do that? I don't need that. I don't need an excuse to get a ticket. Right? So I drive my truck, and the great thing is when I park downtown, nobody bothers it.
Right. I have a 98 Corolla, so I'm with you there.
And see, that's the Corolla won't die either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I will say, women tend to be, at least in my estimation, more impressed with, I don't know, maybe like a hefty savings account versus a flashy car. At least I would
there
be.
was an old song that said, "Girls don't like boys, girls like cars and money." There's a line of an old song.
That's an old song.
That's an old song. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting because when we go to investor groups, the people driving the really fancy cars are not the people that are the millionaires usually. They work for the people. They're the people that provide mortgages and lending, and they're service providers. All the millionaires that have the big portfolios, they don't look impressive, and they don't drive impressive vehicles. They look kind of like schlumps that just came from Walmart. Right? But those are the people that actually have the money. So that's the right idea. And I think, did either of you ever read the Kiyosaki book?
Yes.
Okay. And that was the premise of a lot of what he was pointing out was, where are you going to put your money? It doesn't mean that if you have money and you enjoy a nice vehicle, you shouldn't be allowed to buy one. It's okay to reward yourself in life.
Absolutely.
But priorities, right?
Mm-hmm. I do have a vase buying kind of obsession at the moment too. So
Vases?
Vases. I buy vintage and antique vases right now, but it's like a controllable hobby, and I don't go over a certain amount. I only have so many horizontal surfaces.
So I'm guessing your vase collection has a higher net
value
than your car.
Probably at this point, I don't think I could get $1,000 for my car.
Now, see, I've always wondered about that as a hobby, but everybody I talked to, they were evasive.
Oh, yes? Oh, God.
All right, so I limit myself to one dad joke per show, so we'll move on from there. All right, so as you guys, you also mentioned out of state. Now, when you buy things out of state, obviously, in most cases, it's more affordable than California. There's very few places that are not more affordable. In fact, the last ranking I saw of most expensive places to live, not the most expensive real estate, but the most expensive places to live. That means real estate, energy, food, transportation, everything like that. San Diego topped the list, above San Francisco, above Los Angeles, above Manhattan. Is that insane?
Yeah, that's...
I feel it, though. I feel it with...
So not the highest real estate prices, but the highest expense. Now, our utility prices have quadrupled in the last year, which is a big problem. For a city where you think, why do I even need utilities? It's always 75 to 80 degrees, right?
Right, yeah.
But it does add up, and it's become punitive. So you're buying out of state. Was that primarily because of affordability?
Yeah, so the cost of this house that I purchased was literally the cost of a nicer car. And when you're buying out of state too, it's a different game. So maybe in California it's about appreciation, but out of state it's more about cash flow. And the barrier of entry for this one was a lot easier for me to get into. And like I said, sort of a test drive to see if I could hack it if I did buy one in San Diego, if I was able to get enough money to do that. But it's interesting too, because all the issues that you have with houses, rentals, you don't see as much in syndication. So we get out of the syndications before you have tenants, and when you have tenants, yeah, you're cash flowing however many hundreds of dollars a month, but then you have one one thing go bad, one furnace go out, and
The
now
roof,
you've just
the water heater,
you've
the
wiped
air
out
conditioning.
6 to 8 months of your
Or
cash flow.
a tenant that trashes the place before they move out.
Yeah. And so all those worries are things that are in the back of your mind constantly. You know, obviously you can create a buffer for them, but that's why I was also really interested in these, land development syndications, because the exit strategy is to get in there before, to get out of there actually before you have to actually build anything and bring in tenants.
That's right.
And so that definitely appealed to me.
Yeah, the only thing we evict are rabbits and squirrels and moles. That's what's out there on this,
And you don't even need an attorney for that.
No, we don't. And that's one reason we like it. So I came out of a decades of construction management, and it was a very good industry for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But the fact is, doing just the land side is a lower stress, and I can do a lot more with less money. I don't have labor, materials, equipment, general conditions, all the stuff. I don't have any of that. I don't need an inventory. I don't need a fleet. I don't need shops. I don't have all these contracts hanging out there. Everything we do is drawings and reports. It's just paper.
Sounds like my job right now.
Yeah. Drawings and reports, and we hire someone else to do all of it. Mm-hmm. And so I always joke with people that I'm the president of the company. My two partners, we're all 3 employees of the company. The 3 of us together add up to maybe 1 full-time employee. We put maybe 15 hours a week into our company. And because we're orchestra leaders, I don't play the instruments, I don't compose the music. Our job is to get everybody else to play together. And so between the 3 of us, we orchestrate on different projects and different levels, and everybody else, we're beneficiaries of everybody else's efforts that we pay for, but it stretches out, and it's leverage. It's great leverage. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up our conversation with Kara Tan and Tamara Bell, talking about getting into real estate and what they're doing, and we're going to get into a little bit about, you've talked a little about syndications and land, but I want to get into a little more of structuring the business of being in real estate as opposed to just being an investor. This is Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Tired of qualifying your leads and not getting the right clients for you? Join the finest women in real estate and learn how to attract the best clients and increase your referral network. Call now at 951-378-5316. 951-378-5316 and become one of the finest women in real estate.
Real Men of Real Estate.
Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA.
Boats, mortgages can be purchased.
All of us want to live in thriving communities.
Basically, go to the radio station, KCAA radio.com.
You're listening to Fabulous Lifestyle Radio. I'm your host, Ricky Perry, and we are affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and Sports, where we broadcast to over 5 million households in the greater Los Angeles area. If you missed our previous shows, you can watch us on our streaming networks on Roku TV, Amazon Fire Stick, and the Android app.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. This is Steve Matley. We're talking to Tamara Bell and Kara Tan. They are 2 real estate investors. They work in a company called Mosaic that they have formed. Now, let's get some contact information. If people are interested, if they're listening to what you're saying and they have questions, as you said, people have questions about these things they want to ask. How are they going to get hold of you?
We welcome any sort of discussion about this. Like she said, we'd love to talk about this. So you can email us at mosaiclandpartners@gmail.com.
And our website is mosaiclandpartners.com. pretty straightforward. And for those of you that are a little bit spelling challenged, like most engineers are, Mosaic is spelled MOSAIC and then LANDPARTNERS.com.
Fantastic. So mosaiclandpartners@gmail.com. They can ask you questions. They can set up a phone conversation with you, anything they want. And then mosaiclandpartners.com is the website. They can research and find out more about you and what's going on. Fantastic. And any projects you have going on. So when we left off, we were talking about working out of state. Kara, I want to get your thoughts on doing out of state investing.
Yeah. So actually for my property that's out of state, that was purely an opportunity play. I am very big on creating opportunities for myself. I always want options. You never want to be backed into a corner where you have to make a choice because you have no other choices. So in one of the networking events, I actually met somebody who had a portfolio of homes out in Missouri in St. Louis, and his business partnership with those homes were actually dissolving. It was a personal matter, and they had to now liquidate. They've held these homes for a few years, so they've gone through a few property managers and kind of finally vetted out the best property manager for their homes. And they themselves were flippers here in California. So they went in and bought these homes, improved them, got property managers, rented them out. And I thought with this background, this is kind of a nice setup. So I got in contact with him and I ended up buying one of his properties. I looked at 3, but I ended up buying one. And this home has actually been doing very well for me. Within the first 15 months, I had already made back my initial capital.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, and I'm still holding on to a home now. And, that was my first exposure to out-of-state investing. And you also kind of learn how the different states work, how the response rates were during COVID as well. And there's also different ways how states tax you. For example, for me with California, I found out that, hey, if I owned a home in California and if I ever moved out of state, my rental income, because my homes are located in California, California will always take a piece of that pie in taxes.
There is nothing you will ever do in California generates even a penny without them taking their piece.
Exactly.
Yes.
And this is not true with every state. So one of the big benefits of you doing out-of-state investing is because every state is different. And also if you have kids, if you want to leave your home, your rental portfolio for your kids, California also takes a big piece of that pie, but some states might not. So that's why out-of-state, outside of the fact that it's a much more easier entry point, much more affordable, sometimes governments are easier to work with, taxes was a big play in why I wanted to do more out-of-state investing.
Okay. And so obviously our company, we do out-of-state as well. Mm-hmm. And our motivation, some of it was tax issues, that's true. But honestly, our bigger issue was because of what we're doing with the land projects, we have to go through the public approval processes, and there is the environmental rules. There is no place, I don't think, on the planet with tougher environmental rules than California, the CEQA. And it means biological, historical, cultural, paleontological, you name it, noise, traffic, dust, whatever, water issues, all that stuff. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with any of that, but it's a lot more hoops to jump through than a lot of other places. And we found that also because they changed the rules fast on you, and we have long-term projects, what you start under this set of rules and end under this set of rules over here, which makes it very challenging because unpredictability is kind of the enemy of what we do. So we do a lot of out-of-state because of that reason. Yeah. We can do in a third or a fourth of the time out-of-state what we could do in California. It doesn't mean that California is not a fantastic place to invest in real estate. It's still very lucrative and probably the highest appreciation of any state in the country right now still.
Definitely.
So it's still got its upsides to it. But it definitely has its downsides too. And for us, timing is the big issue. And in California, there's no such thing as quick timing when you're getting processes done. So you have to factor out what are you doing and what's your outcome, and then where you're going, does that fit what you're doing?
Yes.
Exactly. And when you go out of state, in your case, you met people that were able to talk to you about what that area was like and kind of get you some familiarity since you're not from there. A couple of things you mentioned. There's an opportunity. You mentioned opportunities.
Yes.
So opportunities are things that come up when you have prepared and then something shows up. And then when those two things meet, we call that luck. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You say, oh, look how I fell into it. Okay, but they were prepared, ready, and open to it at the time that somebody else had a need. And that came in. And then options, you're right. I'm a big fan of plan A, B, C, D, E, all the way through the alphabet, right? And then the other thing was you met these people through networking.
Yes.
So the biggest piece of advice I can give people out there is go talk to people. Whether you're doing it in discussion boards, blogs, real estate investor associations, networking events, people you work with, go talk to people. I think it's fascinating, Tamara, that you mentioned that you just talked to Kara, who's a coworker.
Right, and not only that, but I think it's important you're talking to people who are maybe in the field as well, but talking to everyone. Let everyone around you know you're the real estate obsessed person. So then when they have an issue that comes up, they're like, oh, I think I have to sell my house, or I don't know what's going on. Oh, what about Tamara? She's always going off about blah, blah, blah. And I don't mind being known as a person who's always talking about real estate, because then people will think about me when they are in need and then an opportunity arises. So talking to people anywhere you go, any walks of life, I think is really important.
And not only do you get an opportunity, you solve their problem.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's ultimately all anybody's doing in real estate or any business enterprise is people are trying to solve each other's problems by working together. The human animal is designed to be a social creature. Nobody's designed to be out there by themselves. Even the Lone Ranger had Tonto, right? He wasn't really alone, right?
Yes.
So everybody is designed to work with other people, and that's how it works best. People like me who are naturally sort of introverted have to fight against our inner desire to want to stay at home and read a book, right?
I'm with you there.
Yes, but we find out that by getting out there and working with people, and then also having prepared ourselves by doing some reading and learning, we have some potential answers for people, and they have potential solutions for us. And we can solve each other's problems by putting a project together. It's awesome. So we're going to have to wrap up this episode. Again, mosaiclandpartners@gmail.com. Mosaic is MOSAIC, mosaiclandpartners@gmail.com, or mosaiclandpartners.com is the website. This is Kara Tan and Tamara Bell. They run that operation, and they are happy to talk with you about where they came from, what they're doing, and why they're doing what they're doing, and educate you a little bit. I'm Steve Matley. I'm Building Solid Foundations. Always a pleasure to learn more from people. I love talking to people that can share with me. And while I have mentored Tamara and Kara a lot, they have taught me a lot too, and I appreciate that. Thank you for being on the show. And for the listeners out there, don't forget to catch us on the streaming platforms if you miss us on the radio. And until next week, go do something different.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast